So Mo,
Owen.
my good buddy, say we're stranded on a desert island, and I die before you do. Would you keep hanging out with my dead body, or would you bury me right away? What are you doing?
I think it definitely depends how long we've been there.
I'll say we've been there for 3 months, and we
3
were
months?
hanging out.
I think I'm definitely at the point of insanity, and I'd probably keep you around, especially for the only other person there. Sort of like a Swiss Army Man situation.
Yeah, so I'm just propped up against the shipwreckage, or however we end up there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would make lines for you and speak for you, but I might talk at you. No promises. It's been 3 months.
You really don't think you're gonna develop a voice for me that you're gonna say back to me?
I mean, again, never been in that situation, but yeah, I wouldn't push it out of the realm of possibility.
Okay. I think I definitely keep hanging out with you, but also first sign of decay, I can't deal with it. As soon as you start to go,
Once the stench gets there, joins the party.
yeah, we're done. You're in the ground.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to the Mowing the Lawn podcast. My name is Owen Strensky with my good friend Mo.
Happy to be here
Happy to be here alive.
for now. We've been on this desert island for 2 months and 29 days. Who's to say what's going to happen?
Yeah, this is our third podcast. Pretty exciting stuff. Took a brief hiatus over the fall.
For the holidays.
For the holidays. Just a couple of admin stuff to get out of the way quickly. Hopefully you're listening to this podcast on Spotify.com, because I've made a promise in this podcast that I will figure that out before this is uploaded, which is going to make this really awkward if it's just released on YouTube and nothing else.
Yeah, sort of holding ourselves accountable. We're going to make it work. And if you are listening to it on YouTube, head over to Spotify and it might be there.
Oh yeah, I'll release it on both for sure, but hopefully you're listening, and maybe Apple Music too, or wherever you get your podcast. I think that's what Joe Rogan says, so I'm going to say it too.
Great role model.
I might cut that out.
But yeah, we might even bring back Napster, release it on there.
Ooh, that'd be a good one. Not Facebook though. You will not listen to this on Facebook.
If you're listening to this on Facebook, it's a pirated stream.
So let's move right into lawn care advice.
As you know, we're a gardening/lawn care podcast, and we start every episode with a quick lawn care tip from two people that don't have yards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we used to mow on our parents' land as little on their serfdom, in their kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Sort of our indentured servitude.
But not anymore. But yeah, we're still going to give you advice anyways.
When was the last time you mowed a lawn?
Last time I mowed a lawn, I, as many young Americans, spent a good amount of time after I graduated from college living with my parents.
Uh-huh.
So after I graduated grad school, too, now that I say it out loud, so it would have been the summer of 2020 was the last time I properly mowed a lawn.
Good summer. Good social distancing activity. Mowing the lawn.
Yeah, I mean, I would do it again. It's a good piece to have 30 minutes to yourself, listen to some podcasts, get the next one going.
Yeah, podcast could be about anything, even about lawn care.
Even about being stranded on a desert island with your good buddy and keeping them above ground once they die.
But not until they smell, because no matter how much I care about you.
So Mo, what's your lawn care tip?
My lawn care tip is a little time sensitive, so when you're listening to this in February, it's not going to be relevant anymore, but keep this in mind for next late fall, mid to late fall. This is around the time when praying mantises are laying their eggs.
I believe it's pronounced praying manten.
Manten.
Like oxen?
Manten. Yeah, I think I've heard that. If you see any praying manten eggs out and about, they are invasive, and they do feed on pollinators and other beneficial native species. So do a quick Google, look up what those little egg sacs look like, and if you see them, you can dispose of them properly. Just a little quick, easy way to sort of take care of our little ecosystem we got here. And this is also only in the Midwest. If you're a place where praying mantises are native, don't.
Yeah. Isn't one of the Kung Fu masters in Kung Fu Panda a praying mantis?
But I believe Kung Fu Panda canonically takes place in China, which
is outside the Midwest by most definitions.
by most definitions, if you're in Western China, some parts of China might be the Midwest.
But not quite all the way west, just
Not
kind of
quite.
in that middle west section.
Exactly. But if you do come across the praying mantis from Kung Fu Panda, just keep in mind I do not advocate for killing them.
Yeah, my piece of lawn care advice is when you think about leaves in this country, you think of them as just purely waste, as something to gather up and dispose of. But leaves, even when they're dead, can be so many more things. When they die, they turn into dirt, which is very nutritious. The worms really like to eat it, and their worm excrement produces very good natural fertilizer. So if you are someone, or if you know someone that has a compost pile, give your leaves to them or add it to your pile. The worms love it, and you'll produce some non-fossily fuel fertilizer for the world to enjoy. Or you can just leave them on your lawn to die naturally and add good fertilizer to the soil.
Nutrients to your own soil. Yeah, I like that tip. Sort of use what you got instead of using your leaf blower to get all those leaves and just throw them out. Do something good with them. Rake them up, put them in a bag. Leave no leaf behind, as we always say on the pod.
As we always say. But yeah, that's kind of my favorite part of being an environmentalist, is that there are some, let's just say, less hardworking aspects to it. For example, don't clean your windows. A bird might run into it and hurt themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Or don't rake your leaves because they're a good source of nutrition for your grass. Don't drive your car as often. Don't run errands as often. It's all good.
Don't over sanitize your spaces. Sort of build up a natural immunity to bacteria and stuff.
That's good too. You should say that.
There it is.
Now that the lawn's taken care of, Mo, do you want to introduce our secondary podcast subject?
Yeah, our closing topic. This episode, we're going to be talking about pet peeves. We're going to do a little draft, something that is a frequent subject of complaint. Be things that others do, some things that just happen in the world, things that sort of a little irk you the wrong way. Not enough to like fully make you upset, but just enough to bring a little negativity to your day.
Yeah, we're going to draft things that we don't like, which is kind of a running theme on this podcast.
Yeah, well, speak for yourself, but I think we're both, for the most part, pretty positive dudes.
Yeah.
I think we like to look on the positive side of things quite a bit, so I think it's going to be fun to go through these with you, things that we don't like, really let that hatred out.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I consider myself a pretty easygoing person. Don't get too easily rattled by the small things in life. And then I started making a list of all the pet peeves I could think of. Granted, we're only drafting 10.
Correct.
And I had 47 by the end. And I could have gone on more, but there's no point in coming up with more than 47. Just to set the boundaries a little bit, these are pet peeves, so these are not like deep problems within our society.
Yeah, like no one's gonna put when someone kills another person, that's my pet peeve.
Yeah, like if Mo said it's a big pet peeve of mine when the pharmaceutical industry takes advantage of people with diabetes, I would say that's not a pet peeve, that's a little bit bigger than that.
That's like a child peeve.
So the way that we're going to decide our first pick is we're both going to guess how long it takes for the first signs of decomposition to occur in the body, whatever stage 1 is, as they say on CSI Miami.
Sort of like where we would cut off on a desert island.
Yeah.
Sort of the burying point.
Mo, since you're older than me, I'll let you pick first.
I'm going to take a guess at, these are like considering like normal moderate temperatures and conditions, moisture and everything. I'd say a little over a week, and to get a more precise number, I'd say 9 days.
I'm resisting the urge to Price is Right you right now, and I'll say 4 days.
Okay.
Here goes the Google. It is 24 to 72 hours.
Oh, should have Price is Right me.
So that gives me the first pick, which is pretty exciting because I think my first pick is very good. My first pick is going to be paying rent as a pet peeve of mine. When I was 6 years old, the house across the street from me was a for rent house. It wasn't like a permanent occupancy house. And it was always very strange to me that like there was a new person living across the street every single year or like every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking my dad like, why is there new people living there all the time? And he's like, oh, it's because that house like renters live in it. It's not like the person who owns the house isn't the same person that lives in the house. So like people change all the time. And I was like, wow, that sounds really stressful.
Uh-huh.
To constantly be moving around and picking up your stuff and finding a new place to live.
And be investing this much money in a place that you're not going to be in for an extended amount of time.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Mo, as much fun as you think it is to throw $1,000 into a waste incinerator every month, it's not actually that much fun.
Yeah.
And it always sneaks up on me a little bit, like the end of the month will be coming up. I was like, wow, it's October 28th. That's pretty cool. I wonder what's going to come in November. Oh, I know what's going to come in November is...
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, I'm going to throw half my paycheck into a waste incinerator.
Straight into something. Straight into a house that I need to keep over my head.
So, first pick is paying rent. I can confirm with my 6-year-old self that thought, wow, renting must suck. It does.
It does. Now that you're living the dream, paying rent. But yeah, I do see how that's a pet peeve, because like, yeah, it sucks, and yeah, it's something you have to do to keep a place over your head, but it pisses you off every time, right? Just that chunk of money leaving your bank account.
I don't advise the audience to do this, but I once calculated how much more money I would have if like I got every rent check back.
Uh-huh.
And it's a disturbingly high amount of money. Like a life-changing amount of money.
Like if you weren't putting that away. But would it be worth it living in a situation where you weren't paying rent?
Yeah, you know, so going back a little bit when I was talking about living with my parents after grad school, it did get pretty comfortable after a couple months. And that's when you know you really have to move out of your parents' house. The moment you're like, this isn't too bad, I can do this for a while, then you need to like slap yourself in the face and douse cold water and say, no, you need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because if you do this for too much longer, it's going to be like years go by.
Yeah, get you to the point where it's worth paying $1,000 to not live with your parents.
Yeah. So that's my first pick.
I think that's a great pick. My first pick, personally, I think this is just as bad as paying rent. It's what I had in mind when we first brought up this topic for a podcast. And so my first pick, I want to go with slip-on Vans. The footwear. Not the laced Vans. I have no problem with those. I actually quite like those. But the Vans with no laces with like a little elastic on the side, hate them. Not like functionally, I've never tried them, never will. But stylistically, I just think they look weird. I don't think they should be as popular as they are. And just every time I notice them out in the real world, sort of takes me out of the moments. Like, why? Why do you got those on?
I do have a pair of slip-on Vans.
You do.
And they're corduroy slip-on Vans. And my girlfriend actually got them for me as a birthday present. My girlfriend Andrea. Because it was taking me too long to tie my shoes, and it was like a big like time waster. So it was like everyone is ready to go. Oh, everyone's tying his shoes, so she got me slip-on Vans as like a good stopgap to stop that happening. But I do like them. I do like the way they
Can you
feel.
speak for their like functionality as an on-foot review?
I wouldn't wear them for like a mile's journey, like if I'm walking anything more than a mile, but they're pretty comfortable for short range travel. I like them more than like sandals or Crocs. I'm not a big
Fair enough.
fan.
Would you say they're like the added speediness of like putting them on is worth.
Yeah, it is. Especially because I live right below a pizza place, and when you order a pizza, you need to put shoes on so you can enter
An establishment. No shoes on service,
That's true.
as they say.
So they're good for that, if nothing else.
Okay, I can take that. I still would never wear them, and yeah, we'll leave it at that.
And we'll leave it at that.
But there's also plenty of other options for quickly acquirable shoe wear. You got Velcro, you got other slip-on shoes that aren't slip-on Vans.
Mm-hmm.
I have thought of your corduroy Vans before, and due to how I like them, I didn't realize like I have separated them from the fact that they're slip-ons just because I've never seen corduroy Vans before. Now that I've realized they're slip-ons, I will think differently of them, just so you're aware.
You want to try them on right now?
I will try them on right now.
Since this is a non-visual medium, Mo is actually walking to try on the slip-on Vans.
They're corduroy, as mentioned before. They're the three primary colors. The front is blue, middle is red, and the heel is yellow. I'm sorry for bright colors, but they do just feel like over-glorified slippers to me. Having tried those on in particular, I do think my hate for them stylistically may not fully be justified, but we'll never wear them.
That's all right. That's what a pet peeve really is at its
Exactly.
core. Is it has to be a little bit unjustified.
Yeah, something that irks you more than it should.
Yeah,
You could say.
for sure. No, I respect the first pick. So for my second pick, I'm gonna fall on a running theme of things that my former roommates have done that I didn't realize pissed me off until it happened in front of me.
Are you gonna name these roommates by name?
I will not.
Okay.
I will not even say what house it was, how old I was when I had these roommates. These are purely mystery.
Fair enough. And just sort of like overall roommate pet
Yeah.
peeves.
So, a roommate that I have, or that I had, who shall remain nameless, once purchased a whole apple pie and put it in the refrigerator, and then either forgot about it or didn't care about it for probably about a month and a half.
Oof.
And if we're talking about first signs of decay, that pie was gone.
Yeah, that's well over 72 hours.
Yeah. I think that's what formed this pet peeve of food waste that is truly unjustifiable, the lengths I will go to prevent it, but it does kind of irk me to my core that like something as important as an apple pie that I'd like never ask if I can like have it because it looks like something
That someone's saving for themselves.
or for like a specific reason.
Yeah, a symbol of America.
and they just let it go bad. And like I don't know, there's like other things that don't bother me nearly as much that are food waste. Like if the last handful of spinach in the bag goes bad,
Yeah.
because it's impossible to use up all the spinach before it goes bad. That doesn't bother me too much. Or if you're like at a restaurant and there's no way you could take your food to go because you have to do something immediately afterwards.
Like it's meat and you're not gonna be anywhere near a fridge
Yeah.
for a while.
That doesn't bother me, but like at least make one attempt to salvage whatever the operation is, to give it new life. And like some people don't do that, and that's what my pet peeve is. Another example of like what isn't a pet peeve is like if you are cooking and you screwed it up so bad that it cannot be salvaged. I think that's not like that is food waste, but it doesn't bother me because at least it's like a teaching moment.
Yeah.
And you didn't intend to waste that food. You just like screwed up because you're in the
Yeah.
process of learning how to cook.
How to cook. Yeah, and like it's not like a repetitive thing you're doing, and it's not like you're doing it because you were careless. You were trying to learn, trying to make something good.
Yeah.
And you made something that wasn't palatable.
But yeah, just like in general, letting food go bad, they could be salvaged if you just made one attempt to save it, is a big pet peeve of mine. And I am truly, I'll say outrageous about the lengths I've gone to save things. Like we'll be at a sleazy Chinese food restaurant and someone is done with their meal and doesn't want to take the rest of it because it just like is super oily and not good, and I'll be like, no, I'll top that up, I'll take it.
This is people that you're eating with at
Yeah.
your table. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I've done that. Or I've also just like commandeered plates at the table.
Yeah.
There are no people aren't finishing, and well, we can work on this together. Not let it go to waste.
I have a very clear memory of we had Giordano's, and I was sitting next to Evan Stark Dykema. I will call him out by name. We split a pizza, the two of us, and we finished all of it. And then every single other person that was like, no, I can't finish this pizza. We just like, send it down. Send it down. And we just like kept finishing people's pizzas together.
Well, yours have been so far quite real ones. Something that if they were abolished or cut down on a lot would greatly improve society.
To go back to our desert island example, if I was to die before you, I'd expect you to eat me and use every part of my body.
Yeah, feel like that went without saying.
In fact, in my normal day-to-day, I routinely eat parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme just to pre-season myself in the event that I die and the next person needs to eat me.
So you have like a built-in little spice pouch in your stomach.
That can be used to season the rest of it.
Yeah, that's very considerate of you. I think I'm going to start eating some, just like chugging pints of barbecue sauce. Just in case, you never
Just
know.
in case.
Like, if you gotta eat a human, you're in a traumatizing situation. I feel like some Sweet Baby Ray's is the least I can do.
Yeah. By no means would I kill you to eat you, but if you did die, I would use every part of your body.
Yeah, I would almost be offended if you didn't. Keeping with this more serious, improving society pet peeves, my next one's gonna be tailgating. Something car driving people have probably all experienced at some point. It's when the car behind you, either wants you to go faster, trying to make a power move or whatever, just is a little too close, more than the car at a half length, 2 seconds behind you than they should be. And not even just car related. I've been tailgated in like line before, just like on foot, waiting for something. I had a woman behind me the other day at Meijer, kept bumping her cart into my calves because she wanted me to move forward.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I was pissed off. But like, that's just the same as tailgating on the highway. Like, no physical contact on the highway, but the threat and
Did she say anything while that was happening? Like, sorry? Or is it just like...
No, it was just sort of like, she thought it was like an unspoken rule, like, why aren't you moving forward fast enough? So we're like, come on.
Yeah, that is wild. And I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry it happened to me too. But, I mean, sure you're late, sure you want to get somewhere sooner, but tailgating someone regardless of the situation isn't gonna... It does nothing but create an unsafe environment, an unpleasant environment. So just lay off it.
Yeah, I would say, have you ever been to a city called Boston before?
I have. That's in New York, right?
Yeah, it is actually in the state of New York.
Okay. I always associate those two together.
Actually, I think Boston is a suburb of New York City, and nothing more than that.
Yeah, a lot of people from there, I think they have their own identity, but it's just like, you're kind of near New York. You know, it's like Connecticut.
Yeah,
basically
Connecticut.
New York.
Anyways, people in Boston, they drive like they've got 9 lives. And they drive like, if you're not doing the specific thing that they want you to do, they'll like steer into you a little bit so that you feel threatened for your life and will start driving differently.
Like sending a message.
Yeah.
Sort of bullying you into adapting their driving culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the worst drivers I've ever encountered. That's the end of the Boston story.
Especially we're in such a car-centric society, it's not something that has to be stressful. We can just take it easy, even if we're late.
Mm-hmm.
Just completely unnecessary, completely unsafe, completely rude. Rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, that was also high up on my board. So, great pick. My next pick was actually the very first thing I thought of when we eventually decided on pet peeves. This pick is Europe being a continent.
Ooh, okay.
Is a pet peeve of mine. Europe is not its own continental plate. So if you're going by that definition, it's off the books because it's connected. It's called the Eurasian plate. It should just be part of
Europe and
Eurasia.
Asia. Yeah. Like, what's that separation coming from?
Yeah. Okay, but maybe you don't define continents by the continental plates because you're not a geologist,
Mm-hmm.
and you just like look at different land masses in the world and say this is looks like a different land mass than this. It's its own continent. Well, guess what? Europe doesn't really have a clear separation from Asia either. It's kind of just like clumped onto there. It kind of shouldn't be considered a continent either that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it that like North America and South America are technically like a little bit connected through Panama, but it's like a very small amount, and
It's-
like they look like two different land masses.
Yeah, there's besides the small isthmus of Panama, there's not, and also that part of Panama is very unpassable.
Yeah.
Like even to this day, there aren't highways or train routes that go through it. Like the only way to get around that area of Panama is through water.
Yeah. So the only thing you're really left with as a reason why Europe is its own separate continent is cultural reasons, which I think is very, I don't know, it's messed up in a lot of ways, but also like if you're gonna box out Europe as its own continent for cultural reasons, you then have to box out a lot of other reasons.
Like India, like they're their own continental plate,
Yeah.
culturally different from a lot of Asia,
Yeah.
still grouped in with Asia.
I would almost say that the country of India is more culturally diverse than the continent of Europe.
Yeah, and then there's questions about countries that are on the border of Europe and Asia, like Turkey. Like,
Yeah.
been trying to get into the EU for ages, not allowed for whatever reason.
Yeah. And it's like
You
a
know?
sticky point because like the only barrier in and out of Europe is a cultural one. So it just like it's really wishy-washy on the borders. Like the part of Russia that is considered part of Europe is only because the white people live in that part
Right.
of Russia, so it feels more like Europe.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about that. Like, there's a country that spans those two continents.
Yeah.
Just,
So I don't know. Big pet peeve of mine.
yeah.
that Europe should be a part of Asia, and there's no reason aside from stupid ones that it shouldn't.
Yeah, and I support that. I didn't expect the little geography pet peeve from this.
Oh, I got more coming down the pipeline.
Well, I've got more. You just made me think of a pet peeve I have that's geography based. So my geography based pet peeve is the Mercator projection, which is a way of displaying our round globe on a flat surface. And this projector method is the one I think most people had in their classrooms growing up, like sort of like the drop down projector screen, where it's super stretched. Greenland is bigger than Africa. Europe looks a lot bigger than it actually is. Canada and the US look much bigger, and then the smaller countries. And then the countries that appear smaller than they are, like most of Africa, a lot of South America, a lot of Asia. Just an inaccurate representation of this world. Not even just this projection in general, but just how prevalent it was growing up and being around, especially when there's great alternatives like the Robinson, which we've also seen where like the longitudinal lines are like curved, and it sort of gives like a more realistic scale of the world. And then I think now is Google Earth, Google Maps, sort of virtual globes are becoming more prominent. I think that's a positive change with technology and the way we represent maps and represent our world.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly with this one. It's funny you bring it up. When I was in fourth grade, we were talking about this, and my teacher had us each peel an orange that could, like, you had to peel it in one piece, and you had to make it as close to a square as possible.
Oh,
And it was impossible.
that's a really cool little practice, little activity for
But
kids.
it lets you understand like what a map is actually trying to do and how hard of a task
Yeah,
it is to describe a sphere using just a sheet of paper.
and such like an easily accessible way for kids to sort of
Yeah.
like they're like competing with each other to get a square, and like none of them can.
Yeah.
And that's like basically what the Mercator projection is. It's a complete square globe,
Yeah.
which isn't gonna work no matter how hard you try.
I'm going to go in a completely other direction with my fourth pick. It's pickleball.
Ooh,
I think pickleball has gone too far. It's a fad. It's taking up tennis courts that could be used for a game that's been played for hundreds of years. I quite enjoy it. It's taking up too much space, and I think the biggest pet peeve is that like everyone kind of knows it's a fad that's gonna die down, and people are gonna stop playing it. It's just something that picked up during the pandemic, and so it's gonna like fade away. But what won't fade away is all the money that people have spent building these pickleball courts and converting tennis courts into pickleball courts. And I don't like pickleball. And whenever I am playing pickleball, I would either rather be playing tennis, like the full version of that game, or I'd rather be playing ping pong, like the half
version.
The true like scaled down, less commitment version of tennis. And so this just feels like an awkward middle ground that's like not satisfying because you're not running around, but also isn't like a quick like pick up and put down game like ping pong.
Ping pong is.
So it's like the worst of both worlds. And I just feel like a lot of places converted their tennis courts too quickly, and it's gonna show the time that like, oh, all these empty pickleball courts we could have been playing tennis on, but we can't.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't agree with your take on pickleball as a sport. I quite enjoy pickleball. I think it is a combination of tennis and ping pong, but I think it is a happy medium, especially because there isn't as much running. It's good for people with injuries, good for elderly people that aren't as mobile, but like maybe aren't ready for how skill oriented or like non-communal a ping pong table is. Like, because there's not as much moving around, it is based on stroke more, and also you have to have access to a ping pong table, where a lot of pickleball courts are like free to the public, free to use, like tennis courts are. But where I will agree with you is that tennis courts and like city parks and like anyone that has tennis courts have been way too quick to convert just like full tennis courts straight to pickleball. There's that court south of your high school that we went to in a neighborhood that is like a fenced area and within a neighborhood next to a park that looks like it used to hold 3 full-size tennis courts and now just holds 1 tennis court and 4 pickleball courts, which I feel like is such a swing in the ratio of it. Like maybe or like 1 tennis court into 2 pickleball courts is reasonable, but to completely outnumber the tennis courts with the pickleball courts that quickly, I think, is a little reckless. And like, yeah, there are a lot of people playing pickleball now, but tennis is still a very popular sport. And if there was a single other duo playing tennis that day at that park, we wouldn't have been able to play it.
Yeah, I do think my take on pickleball is a little, like, frankly obnoxious, the disdain that I have for it.
Well, like my disdain for slip-on Vans.
Yeah, it's in the same vein of, like, it pisses you off more than it should, and that's what makes it a good pet peeve.
Exactly, yeah. No, all for that, and also not for just the dramatic upswing of pickleball infrastructure. So, unlike pickleball, my next pick is going to be something that's decreased in popularity recently, but they're still pretty prominent in popular culture, and the impact they've had is I still encounter it daily. So my next pick is going to be Jim Carrey.
Ooh, great pick.
Not Jim Carrey as a human, I'm sure he's wonderful, but Jim Carrey as a performer, I don't think there's anything special about him. I think his brand of comedy is just sort of like being different, being a little weird, and I think that is why it's gone down in popularity recently, is just because it's more okay to be weird, it's more okay to be different. I think for the amount of talent that he possesses, I do think he's a funny dude, but the amount of talent he possesses correlated to how popular and how like in like the 90s, early 2000s, how like crazy, insane people were for Jim Carrey. Don't get it, don't think he's funny, don't think he should be idolized as one of like the best comics of all time.
His brother, Tim Curry, I think is one of the best actors of all time. His performances in Clue from the 1980s and Rocky Horror.
Yeah, it kind of baffled me if they're related based on just talent alone, really.
Yeah, this really could have been
sort of like a Seth Curry, Steph Curry situation.
Yeah, I really could have been on our Nepo Babies podcast, but missed the mark by a little bit.
Just a bit.
But yeah, great pickup for sure. I did not even think about it until you said it, but I was like, yeah, I can see that for sure. My next pet peeve is more of a question than a pet peeve, but I think Just let me read it in its entirety. So my pick number 5 is why is the rum gone? Like, I get it. It's a vile drink that turns even the most respective men into complete scoundrels. And also that signal is over 100 feet high and the entire Royal Navy is looking at me. And is there even the slightest chance they won't find it? But still, why is the rum always gone? It just seems to be gone at the worst possible moment.
Seems to happen a lot too for how much rum is.
Yeah, well, you're like out at sea. There's nothing to do but drink.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's reasonable that it runs out fast.
Pretty quick. And like, you know why the rum is gone deep down.
But why is the rum always gone?
Why is the rum always gone? Well, so how awful would it be to be hungover on rum at sea?
Well, you just drink more rum and then that cures the hangover.
True, I guess that's why it's such a quandary when the rum is gone.
Yeah.
Because you have to deal with the consequences. So for my next pick, I'm going to go with another driving-based pet peeve, and it's going to be leaving the turn signal on. Of course, turning without a turn signal, merging lanes without a turn signal is a classic pet peeve, but like, I can kind of get that. Like, either you're a piece of shit, you're lazy, or you're like trying to make a power move or something. You just want to move that lane without having to signal for it. But just cruising along, going straight, not turning at all with your turn signal on, like, I just don't get it, you know?
Yeah.
I think in my entire 10 plus years of driving, I've never once caught myself with my turn signal flashing.
Yeah.
I think just the fact that there's people that are that unaware or that oblivious or that don't care that much that are on the road just cruising around with their turn signal on pisses me off.
Especially when you're like driving slowly and carefully and considerately because you think they're gonna turn and then they don't for like another 300 yards and you're like, all right, what's going on here, buddy?
Right.
Do we have a conversation? Like, are you good?
It's like a breach of trust almost.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We have this understood language of declaring where we are in these 2-ton vehicles going 50, 60 miles an hour, and to sort of misuse those cues just sets the whole thing back.
I agree. All right, so just to recap on the picks so far, Owen has paying rent, food waste, Europe being a continent, pickleball, and why is the rum always gone? Mo has slip-on vans, being tailgated, Mercator Maps, Jim Carrey, and leaving the turn signal on. For my next pick, I'm going to go with something that's purely an internal pet peeve, but still does a good job of pissing me off, and that's when you get a full night's rest and wake up tired.
Oh.
It's brutal.
It is brutal.
It's like, I've done everything right. I've done everything to satisfy your needs, body. I went to sleep early to get up for this. I slept for 9 hours.
I gave you what you needed.
And you still are not giving me anything in return.
Yeah. And I think that is something where you do put in that effort, you make a conscious effort to do that, and then just not get it. Yeah, and I think a lot of it is that your body's used to not getting that much sleep, and then when they do get more sleep, it's sort of capitalizing on it, which I get. But my next pick is going to be the number 2 option on a stapler. You know, like on the bottom, there's a little dial, and you can flip it from the sort of feet going inwards when they puncture the paper to going outwards and like curling out. I just don't understand why the second option is even there. Like, is there a benefit of that over the regular standard inward staple puncture? I don't know, sometimes this happens to the stapler at work. I don't know if someone's doing it accidentally or maliciously, but every time I catch myself stapling a paper and then the feet go out, I think it's dangerous. It's a hazard. Like, you're more likely to, like, if you're like rooting through papers, your finger catches an outward facing staple in the wrong way. If there was a benefit to having staples like that, I'd be totally okay with that. But I just don't understand why that's a thing over just the routine regulation staple.
I'll be honest, until just this moment, I thought that it was just a goof and like it meant that your stapler was like out of sync if your legs went the wrong way. I didn't know that was an intended use of a stapler.
Yeah, like I think most staplers I've used, it's an intentional design where you can flip around the way the legs go. I think the world would be a better place if stapler manufacturers didn't do that. A standardized staple method.
To save injuries in the workplace.
Save injuries, also much easier to remove with the classic 4-tooth staple remover. Much easier to remove a staple if it's clamped the right way than outwardly.
Yeah.
Just, I think, a flaw in our society that is like a vestige of older times, or just lack of standardization.
Much like paying rent.
Just like paying rent.
Much like paying rent, in 50 years we're going to look back, or maybe more than 50 years, but like in 200 years we're going to look back at our current society and be like, why did we still have landlords and renters, and why did we still have staplers
that
had a non-useful function?
Like some anthropologists will be going back, looking at little papers, and just be blown away with the incompetency of our stapler engineers.
Yeah, for sure.
Although if someone knows why staplers do that, I would love to know. I think it would subdue some of my hatred for it.
Yeah.
I at least understood why. But without Googling it, no idea.
For my next pick, I'm not much of a fashion guru. I don't know much of anything about fashion. And I would say I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to fashion as well. I think the most important thing about fashion is just wearing it with confidence, and you'll look good as long as you feel good with 99.999% of fashion. But there is one particular outfit that gets under my skin a little bit, and that is when men specifically wear a graphic tee with a blazer.
Oh.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's like the combination of being like ultra casual with also like trying to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and like you can't do both with just your fashion.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, I don't know, like a Superman shirt and a blazer on top of it just like makes me squirm underneath my skin.
It's gross. I agree. That's a great pick.
It's almost the inverse relationship to how I feel about all other forms of fashion. Like the more confidence you have with wearing it, the less inclined I am to try to talk to you.
That's a great way of putting it. Like I can see like, I'm very comfortable wearing this t-shirt, but like this is a little more dressy. Let me just throw on a blazer. I don't know if this will work, but it's like what I've got that I can sit with Mel more than someone be like super confident about it. Like, this fit's rocking. I've got my like Metallica t-shirt and my blazer over it. Like, this looks good.
Yeah, and again, like having them separately, like a person wearing a Metallica t-shirt,
totally fine.
Totally fine. Person wearing a blazer, even with like a black t-shirt or a white t-shirt, like not all the way dressed up, I think is also fine.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the combination just really sets me off.
Yeah. I think there was maybe a brief period from like 2011 to 2012 where that was more, it wasn't as standout as it is now, but definitely being 10 years past that, and you do still see that, it's jarring for sure. I think that conflict between sort of casual and comfort and a little dressy, a little up is the same thing I have against slip-on bands.
It always comes back to
It
slip-on.
always comes back to that.
I'll also throw the tuxedo shirt in that same category.
Just on its own, not even with a blazer.
Yeah. If I can get a twofer in with my picks.
Yeah, I think the tuxedo shirt is sort of like a minimalist representation of the graphic tee and blazer.
Yeah.
It's sort of getting down to it in one item. My next pick, and this might be a bit of a hot take, is subtitles. Just the use of subtitles. And I don't mean that if you're someone that needs the assistance with consuming like a visual media that you do need subtitles, that's totally fine. Or if you're in an environment like at a bar and you got the subtitles on the TV there, or like you have a lot of people over and you got the subtitles on, totally valid use of subtitles. I'm talking about you have full access to your hearing, you're sitting at home with like 2 or 3 people and you're watching a movie and you got the subtitles on. I don't think that's for me. I just think it's disrespectful to the writers, to the comedians, especially in comedy, just like the timing of it all. Like I feel like if the joke pops up in the subtitles before the character says it on screen, and I read it and like it's funny, but it's not as funny, I feel like, as if it it was delivered the way it was intended by the actors, by like the director and everything. I think it's an improper use of the media. I think a lot of people hate audiobooks for the same way, and while I'm not as passionate about that, I think that's a similar parallel to the subtitles in a visual TV media show.
Yeah, so I am a subtitles user.
Oh yeah?
Even when I'm like by myself watching
How
TV
have I never noticed that?
and something in English. I do agree that you should turn them off for comedy because timing is like extremely important with a joke, and if you read it beforehand, it kind of like spoils it for you.
Yeah.
And it won't land nearly as hard. But I just hate, I'll like miss something because my hearing is good, but it's not perfect. Like I'll like the character will say something not sure what it is, and then like the other character reacts to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what the fuck did they say? And I have to like rewind it a couple times to know. But if I have subtitles on, then I always catch everything that people are saying.
True, I get that. And yeah, especially if you're watching a dramatic thing or like something like Game of Thrones where there's a bunch of character names that sound similar and you do need that visual differentiation.
Mm-hmm.
I do get that. But also I feel like if you can't hear it fully, like sometimes that might be intended. Like there might be a little mumble or might be a whisper, and I feel like I don't trust the person making the subtitles to be in communication with the people producing that work of art to like fully communicate that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the film Day of the Dead by George Romero? Anyways, it's a zombie flick, and one of the scenes in that movie is one of the characters is getting eaten alive, and he yells something as he's getting eaten alive, but it's like choppy because he's screaming as he's saying and all the zombies are making noise. I saw that when I was like 14 years old. It was a big mystery in my life for a really long time of like what he was saying, because it's like important. It's like his dying words.
Yeah.
He's like a major character in that movie. And I recently looked it up, and he was saying, "Choke on that, choke on that," just over and over again.
Yeah.
Which I think, first of all, is just a really cool thing to say as you're getting eaten alive. Is
Choke
to like,
on that. Yeah.
But also, I think would have been ruined by subtitles because part of the mystery was like the fun of it of like, what did he say?
Yeah, and like that had a spot in your brain, just like, what did he say?
Yeah.
What is something someone would say when they're being eaten alive? Yeah, and then like I'm not fully against subtitles. Like I definitely turned on for Dairy Girls because I just couldn't do that accent.
Yeah,
I do recognize the utility of it, and especially for something that's in a language you don't know well, or if you don't have your full hearing capabilities, or you're in a place where it doesn't work, the subtitles are great for that. But I think, especially in comedy, if we're watching The Office and someone's got subtitles on, it just rubs me the wrong way.
For sure. For my next pick, I didn't think of until actually just now. No research on it. I had 47, but now it's 48 pet peeves. And that is when this was like a big thing in the early 2000s to mid 2010s of radio stations that would advertise themselves as today's best hits without the rap.
Ooh, 96.3.
96.3 for those that live in Southeast Michigan. But so for people that don't know and didn't listen to those radio stations, that means two things. So the first thing is they're going to play today's top 40 hits, but they're not going to play any rap songs that happen to chart in the top 40, which like makes sense without the rap.
Yeah.
Like whatever, people that listen to those radio stations don't like rap, so they play the ones without the rap songs. But what it also means is that during that time, there were several pop songs that would feature two different artists on one song, the singer and the rapper. And so without the rap meant that they just like clean cutted those parts out of the song and just played like chorus on chorus on chorus and kind of like Frankensteined that song back together.
Yeah, like it's one thing to like just cut out any songs that have rapping in it and just not play them. Like probably a little racist.
Yeah.
Probably like I don't think would swing today, but it's another thing to just like I have distinct memory of listening to 96.3 and then playing "Love the Way You Lie" by Eminem featuring Rihanna and just playing the Rihanna part, which is really just the chorus and maybe like two sentences just over and over.
Yeah, and you touched on it about like the racist overtones of like we specifically don't want those kinds of people on our radio station so that the soccer moms can feel good about themselves driving kids to soccer practice. That there'll be no kinds of that kind of music while driving. But also it's just weird. Like, can you imagine if a radio station said today's top 40 hits but without the synth section?
Yeah.
We've cut out the synth section, don't worry. You won't hear any synths.
No songs with clapping in them.
We won't have any trumpet sections. So
Yeah.
parts of the song that are pretty instrumental and intentional to it, we're just gonna
Yeah, and something that's completely its own art form, completely its own thing, just...
It doesn't strike as hard of a pet peeve because it's not really a thing anymore, both because like those kinds of pop songs aren't nearly as popular. But like, I don't know, it still hurt enough at the time that I'm willing to put it down as a
Yeah. My next pick is going to be another thing that was very prevalent, I feel like, as a child, but I haven't seen around as recently, probably for the better, but it's just something that was so jarring and traumatizing to me as a kid that it still sticks with me to this day, and that's someone turning pages in a book or a pamphlet and licking their fingers first before they grab the page to turn it.
Yeah.
First of all, never tried it myself, but I don't think that's helpful at all. To be licking your finger, and also hideously unsanitary. Not necessary. Like, I've never once licked my fingers turning a page, and I've never had a problem turning a page. Don't think it's necessary, just gross. Like, especially if you're reading something and you have to take a pause from reading to lick your finger, just slob on your digit. I don't think, that's just horrendous.
Ooh, that's a good soundbite, slob on your digit, but I won't. I promise to use those powers for good. I do remember my dad used to read to me as a child, and he would lick his fingers every time he needed to turn the page. And I did notice it a lot as a kid. Because it'd be like, it takes some time to like fully lick your finger and turn the page.
Yeah.
So you're like announcing it every single time you're doing it.
And is that like, does it take less time to turn a page with a moist finger than it does to just turn it normally? Have you ever discussed that with your dad? Or
I have not.
Have you noticed him doing it recently?
He doesn't read books to me anymore, unfortunately.
Oh, no?
But if he does it again, I'll make sure to point it out to him.
Yeah. Like, I've never understood it.
For my next pick, this one's pretty niche, but it's very important to me. I hate when people lie and say that they don't think Jackass is very funny. I watched it as a kid when I was 12 or 13, and it has done irreparable damage to my personality and just the way I see the world ever since.
Yeah.
I would say, to say that I'm like a fan of the series is an understatement. I've seen every film more than a dozen times. I like cry laughing every single time I watch it. And I think that if you don't think that Jackass is funny, you're lying to yourself, and you want to come off as like a holier than thou, you're more developed person that like would never laugh at Jackass.
Yeah.
And you will. Like, I've seen people that are not about that life whatsoever burst into tears from it. I'm convinced that every single human in the Western world, if not the entire world, would bust a gut watching them do the stuff that they do. I understand not liking Jackass from the point of view of it's not good for the world. Maybe those films should not exist in the first place. It's a bad influence. But not liking it purely on artistic merit and thinking that's not funny, you're just lying to yourself and lying to everyone around you.
Yeah.
And it's a huge pet peeve of mine that you won't just admit it and think the Jackass is funny.
And I'm not expecting people, like, there definitely are parts of Jackass that aren't for everyone, and even myself, I have trouble watching, but to say that it's not art, and to say that they don't touch on some inherent part of the human experience with what they're doing, and that there is some sort of weird genius to the Jackass stunts. Like, the creativity involved, the way that it touches on just, like, the grotesque and the absurd of humanity and the pain we feel and the way we can experience that pain. I think they are creative in exposing that in a way that you can portray it on film. And yeah, I get the hate for it. I get why people don't like it, but to fully disregard the artistic merit and the truly like special and unique piece of media that Jackass is.
Yeah,
It's weird.
I would get going on specific Jackass sketches that particularly touched me in my life, but then this podcast would be 2 hours long, so I'll just leave it at that and let you move on to your next pick.
Yeah, stay tuned to our next episode where we draft the best Jackass bits.
Ooh, I'm down.
Yeah, it's almost in the same vein as the 96.3 Today's Best Hits without the rap. It's sort of just like a blanket disregard of something that's is artistic, is valuable to people, just for some sort of quick judgment.
Shout out to 96.3. I haven't listened to them in probably 10 years.
I haven't either. They didn't play any rap. My next pet peeve is a bit of a grammatical one, maybe a language one. It's when a word has more than one pronunciation. Sort of a tomato situation, or a caramel and caramel. I grew up hearing these words said different ways, so I've always been conflicted about which one I identify with, which one I use. Sort of like crayon and crayon. I've said crayon growing up, and then in like 3rd grade I started ironically saying crayon, and I've never been able to go back to crayon again. And it's just, why do we say it 2 different ways, multiple ways? There should be like one standardized way to say it. Or not that there should be like a standardized way to say it, it's just when those words come up and there's that discrepancy with pronunciation, it's just feels a little silly to me.
How do you feel about saying things the wrong way but on purpose? Like making them a little silly as you say it?
Like Target instead of Target?
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's just spicing up your everyday life.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If you that was a pet peeve of yours, I was like, I'm sorry we've been friends for so long, because I do that all the time.
Yeah. No, there's a reason we're friends. Yeah, all for that. But something that is just a mundane word that people say, and not because they're trying to have fun, just because of a cultural difference.
Yeah. No, I get it. All right, so last pick time.
Ooh.
There's so many good ones left. I'm ashamed that this podcast has gone so long and we don't have more picks to go to. Maybe we'll part 2 this at a later date.
Yeah, pet peeves.
I think the only last pet peeve I can give, so fully solidify my top 10, is Magic the Gathering as my number 10 pick.
Just the existence as a card game?
The existence and the grip that it's had over me my entire life. Much in the same way that I complained about paying rent, as like how much money have I invested into it versus what I've gotten out of it. I would say I've easily put $1,000 from like the age of 12 into Magic the Gathering, from all the draft nights and all the the cards that I bought in for the different decks I built. It seriously was like crack for a good long while. That was like the only thing I was spending any of my Christmas money on, which is more pieces of cardboard.
Yeah.
Literal game pieces that cost like $40 each, but like gotta have it so you can beat the fully grown adults with working jobs. Like, what?
Yeah.
Pay to win system.
Yeah, sort of like feeding in the consumerism of it all. Like,
Yeah.
buy this new pack, get this new guy.
It's like really consumerism to the extent their mainline format called Standard uses 6 sets at a time, and then when the next one comes out, the older ones cycle out. Like, you can't use them anymore.
Like, they're not, even if you have them already.
Yeah, they're not legal in Standard anymore because the new ones have come in.
Yeah.
So like it like keeps it fresh because like the new cards become viable because the old ones cycle out, but also if you've invested a lot of money and time into collecting all the old cards.
Also, from a game design perspective, like, to have these things that were useful be irrelevant.
Yeah,
in such a quick time span.
There are other formats that you can like put them back into, but by that point, like, the card pool is so big that like only like a dozen cards are worth using at that point, because if you have access to every single card, you would just use the most powerful ones. So that
does make sense.
So Magic the Gathering is my last pet peeve. I still have the card game app on my computer, and I still play it every single day. I haven't spent any money on it though. I've only done like the grinding, like the daily quest though. But I'm still infuriated that it's got such a powerful grip on me that I play it every single day, and still robs me of my very limited hours a day.
Yeah. So is your peeve with it that it's designed well enough as a game that you're into it, and that you're captivated by it, but also there's these flaws about it, and there's the fact that it's so easy to get like drawn into it.
Yeah, it's like the whole picture that it's predatory and malicious in its nature, but also so captivating that I haven't escaped the cycle of it yet.
Yeah, like why couldn't something that you enjoy that much be fully free, or like
at least less expensive,
or not at such a huge time commitment sort of thing?
Yeah. I also don't think I get any joy out of like the like half an hour to hour I played every day. Like I don't feel any like spark of like joy while I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's just something that's there that you gotta deal with. Yeah, I feel like that's so emblematic of just a good pet peeve and something that's so niche and relevant to you. I love it.
Yeah, you're really learning a lot about each other this podcast, as we do on every one, obviously, but this is a good one.
Mm-hmm. For my next one, I think I'll also go with something I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with, and for me that's the regular Cheetos. Just the default crunchy, cheesy, or whatever they call it, Cheetos.
Brilliant pick. This might actually be the best pick out of all 20 so far.
Like, I will eat them. If going back to your food waste thing, if there's a bowl of regular Cheetos in front of me, I will eat them.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate them as much as a snack that I will eat them, but also there's so many other good varieties of Cheetos, so many good varieties of other snacks that they don't deserve the space they have in our snacking world.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just Cheetos.
Yeah.
They're just little crunchy, oily, cheesy things.
It's kind of like if Ford, their mainline car that they sold and like advertised the most and was like in all the dealership was the Model T.
Yeah.
And next to them were like very good cars like the Ford Fusion or a Mustang or like an F-150. They're like truly perfected its use.
Built off of the general platform to make something more specialized, more relevant.
Yeah, more efficient at whatever task it was doing. But like their main flagship car that they just like kept selling and kept hiding in vending machines and in other various
kept showing up in snack boxes
was the Model T.
Model T, yeah.
And you're like, why? Like, I understand the relevance of the Model T, and we wouldn't have these other nice cars without it. But like, we've got so many better options. We've got Flamin' Hots. We've got the jalapeno
cheddar.
We've got puffs,
like
the big
same
one.
Flavor, texturally so much better.
We've got like the little like baked puffs. They're like super skinny and crunchy and very good.
Yeah, and just in the Cheetos brand itself, there's so many better options. It's almost like when you got busy work as a kid.
Yeah.
In school, that's what Cheetos feel like to me. Like, they get the job done. Put it minimally, get the job done, but we could be doing other things, more supplemental things.
Yeah.
And then if we didn't have this taking up so much space, we could get more.
Okay, yeah, I think these are two fantastic lists. I think these are well thought out. I'm just going to recap them again. For Owen, we have paying rent, food waste, Europe as a continent, pickleball, why is the rum gone, full night of sleep, no rest, blazer and graphic tee, 96.3 without the rap, and all radio stations by extension, people that lie about Jackass, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, I mean Magic the Gathering. Moe's List, Slide on Vans, tailgating, maps that don't tell the truth, Jim Carrey, leaving the turn signal on, the number 2 mode on a stapler, subtitles when you don't really need them, licking the pages as you turn them, multiple ways to pronounce a word, and regular Cheetos.
I think this is a great list.
Great list overall. Is there any more you just want to shout out really quickly?
I'm curious to know what is like a well-regarded pet peeve that you don't have any problems with, or that you feel like you don't distaste it as much as other people do.
I don't think this is like a mainstream pet peeve. I would say I'm well into the hip hop community, that like I listen to like a lot of different aspects of it. And it's a big thing nowadays to not like mumble rap or like songs that only have a good beat whatsoever. And I still find enjoyment out of a lot of those. Like I went to a Lil Yachty concert. I had a great time. I wish I could listen to Die Lit by Playboy Cardi for the first time again.
Yeah.
Because it was an inspirational moment the first time I listened to Die Lit by Playboy Cardi. And like I still find enjoyment out of all of them. And like it's kind of a pet peeve within the rap community that you're supposed to like distance yourself from it and look to more intellectual rappers like your Kendrick Lamars or your JPEG Mafias that like have more to say. But I still find enjoyment out of all of it.
Yeah, I love that answer, because there is so much to get out of music that's not just like the rap aspect of it. That also puts into perspective our own pet peeves. Like we're not like trying to shit on people that do these things or people that have these preferences. It's what makes a pet peeve a pet peeve. Like not everyone's into it. Not everyone's gonna hate it to the same degree. It's sort of what shapes a personality and who you are. Like there are things that, because they're pet peeves and they keep happening. Like there are people that use a number 2 on the stapler, but that's how it is.
Ooh, another great answer to this is I forget who said it to me, but someone a long time ago said that they hated slip-on Vans for some reason.
Who the fuck was that?
And I got a pretty cool pair of slip-on Vans that I like that was given to me by a very special person, and I like them.
Exactly, and that's what makes this world great. People have tastes, people have things they like that might be a little out there, but if everyone had the same pace that no one liked, it would be pretty boring.
Yeah. Did you have any things that you like that's considered a pet peeve?
I think being late is one. I mean, obviously, like, if you have a set deadline, can't be late for that, but I think making plans with friends and I think a certain amount of grace period is, while it can be annoying, I think there's something nice about that. Just sort of adding to the casuality of things.
Yeah.
Sort of the trust you have in your friends that, yeah, they are late, but it's not because they don't want to be there. It's just because they're just going at their own time. Sort of people have their different tastes for things. Another one for me is commercials. I think that's a little bit more of a hot take. Specifically with like sports, watching something on live cable TV. I think they are annoying if you're just trying to cruise through something, but also it gives you an opportunity to, like, when you're watching a live event, to get up, take care of things, make a snack, go to the bathroom, sort of add to that sort of laid back, relaxing, watching TV sort of experience that you're not certainly pressed for time. You've got things to do, or something that just a way to take your mind off what you're watching.
I do like that for the most part advertisements keep things free, especially on the internet.
Yeah.
Which is like a big thing that I don't think most people realize, that if like we get rid of ads collectively as a community, more things are just gonna cost things because they have to find a way to make them profitable.
Or the content we're getting from that isn't gonna be
nearly as good.
Like imagine if people weren't being paid to make YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like sure there would be some that are really great that you could watch without ads, but a lot of creators rely on that ad money to put out the product they are.
I have some stronger opinions on advertising, but I'll keep them to a later podcast. Can I just give out one more pet peeve? I won't give any context to it. I just want to say it.
Perfect.
Hobo Johnson. If you don't know who Hobo Johnson is, listen to him. Listen to his top 5 songs on Spotify, and he will be a pet peeve of yours.
Also, watch his Tiny Desk. That's where I learned the pet peeve at Hobo Johnson.
I've never felt secondhand embarrassment for just a musician playing a song before I listened to Hobo Johnson.
Sort of the t-shirt and blazer of rap. Hobo Johnson.
Is he a rapper? I guess he is.
What else would he be? He's not a singer.
Spoken word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the podcast. there's several of you that have reached out that you've wanted to be a guest speaker on the podcast, and that is all getting worked out in due order, as in the order that you've asked. There's a little bit of a waiting list, but feel free to reach out if you want to be a guest speaker, and we'll get that worked out for you.
Yeah, we'd love to add another voice to this podcast with some people we haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah, please comment on Instagram or Spotify about other pet peeves you've had or other subjects you'd like us to cover.
Please. Anything you want to pitch?
Ooh, anything I want to pitch? I watched the WNBA and I was entranced by it. I think more people should watch it.
Mm-hmm. Especially now, at least for the TV service I have, this last season was the first season where most games were available to watch.
Yeah.
And
also, there's too much talent in the WNBA, but like a long shot, it's like too concentrated. And I think if more people watch it, there'll be more teams and they can more evenly disperse that talent because there's a lot of it. I heard that there was, I forget her name, and I'm going to feel really bad about this. There's a number 1 overall pick that was like cut from a team because there was too much talent.
Many other good players, or
there
sort of like
there just isn't room.
The Las Vegas Aces, where
yeah,
they're
that's
just
also what I was thinking.
Fully stacked, and another team met them in the finals that was also pretty stacked, and they just blew them out of the water.
Yeah,
sort of thing. But still great games.
Yeah, if you like basketball or just sports, team sports in general, I'd say give the WNBA a good watch. Anything you want to shout out?
Great pitch. Waking up early.
Yeah, is good.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Maybe if you're not doing it, just give it a shot. Try it out.
All right, I like it. All right, well, that's the podcast. Join us next time when we draft presidents we think we could beat at kickboxing.
And that's no rules kickboxing.
Yeah, you can actually use your hands too.
Yeah, you can kick with your fists.
Oh man, or something somehow even worse than that. All right, see you next time.
Bye.